he comes in.
I didn't know he was still on.
Oh, yeah, he texted.
How do you think he's so good on another can leave their house? I don't know. You people smoking around, there's tons of people down there, but this is what was told to me.
Yeah, like 6 huge signs up.
Saturday has some, they have some meeting place. I don't know, I just didn't want to know. It's really cool.
Yeah. They take that one down right there, right?
Right when you walk in by Cold Springs Amenity Center, where we used to drive, yeah,
I'll put them back up. Take them down.
perfect. When we first went there, before you, Tyler, there was right there was a giant boulder that you would never think would be moved. On the weekend, the big trucks came by and they. So Mark. Mark's got his mask and he's got addition on his face. Yeah, so you took down your mask, you've got addition under it. Distinguished, I like it.
Work in progress.
Okay.
See what happens.
You can use as an excuse. Bill, I can email you my handout if you want.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I can email that one and my. And I have your email. Mr. Shaw, I have yours too.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I can email, I'll email both of you.
I got one.
Okay. Is
Mark, I think
everybody?
we'll just go and get started and
Yeah.
just insert the mayor whenever we get here. We'll give it another, give it 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Easier. Give them the bag. Long trip. There's much online stuff that we've done, we still not.
Are you up here for citizen comments?
I'm with the newspaper, so I'm just sitting in.
I was just gonna say welcome.
Right, you know Jason.
I haven't met Jason.
Okay.
Welcome.
All
Hi, over in the corner. It's okay, nobody knows what anybody looks
I don't
like.
have to call you Mr. Shaw, do I?
No, you can call me. I can call me if you want to. I don't care. Everybody else is.
Or Mr. Jason, Mr. Jason.
Bill Warren.
Bill? Welcome.
Hey, and lots of things.
We have this, we are here for you.
We thought you weren't gonna show.
You like to sit in?
All right.
This is how y'all doing?
How's it going?
Good, man.
Stranger, how you doing? Hey,
Howdy.
how you doing? What's up?
Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Get started. 5:36. Call to order. We have a roll call with Marcia, Randy, Jane, and the vacant position.
Anymore.
Tonight, number 3, citizen comments. We do have citizen comments. Really don't-
Sure, you ready?
Sure.
Bill Warren, I'm with Leander Soccer. First of all, I sent an email last week to Lionel, City Council, Mayor. I I didn't have all the facts, so I apologize for jumping to some conclusions. The rest of my time, I want to read an email or a letter from the head coach of one of our teams that's busy being a parent at the moment. Mayor Hill, members of Parks and Rec and Advisory Board. Over the past decade or so, I have and continue to volunteer 2 to 3 hours most evenings of the week to facilitate youth soccer for girls and boys at Cerna Fields. I have grown frustrated with our city's leadership when it comes to maintaining the complex. Examples include motorized vehicles and bikes on the turf, unauthorized for-profit field use, subpar facility maintenance and attention to detail. The simplest task of weed management between the edge of the turf and the concrete ribbon bordering the hill has been ignored. I have asked people not to climb over the fence or to remove their pets. I have mended nets and fences with my own materials. My son's soccer team has performed sweeps to collect trash left behind by others. If we don't begin to properly protect our assets, it could soon look like it did before 2018. I recommend budgeting for a city employee to liaise, manage, and supervise the park and fields during its peak demand times. I know it can be done. I witnessed it last week when we all but laid out the red carpet for Austin FC. The delays and excuses with San Gabriel Park are equally frustrating. I am confident I can speak for most of our citizens that have to travel into Austin where they facilitate sports like girls softball that we want and need a sports complex comparable to the one in Round Rock. We want to live here, spend here, and play here in Leander. Generally, I would have preferred to speak in person today, but I chose to lead soccer practice and not to disappoint our future stars and leaders who are craving a return to some sort of normalcy. Thank you for your time.
Any comments? In item before, Mayoral, the floor is yours.
Well, my life, so, that was a while.
Yeah.
I just had this little time slot, didn't know what to do, so I thought I'd show up here. But, no, I know that, sports is kind of on everybody's mind right now, obviously, and obviously Leander does lack some facilities, and so I kind of wanted to talk about that. And, you know, parks are, I mean, my gosh, I remember, you know, my son being in youth soccer and we didn't have any fields. And yeah, you're right. We drove everywhere, and we drove to Wilco. We drove way out on the tollway, you know, Dripping Springs or Oak Hill, whatever that is. And nothing is close, you know, it's terrible. So we are definitely, I think all of our council is committed to finding a solution. The San Gabriel, number one, for me, it doesn't rise to the occasion for several reasons. Number one, it was part of Liberty Hills ETJ. It wasn't even in the city limits when we acquired it. In my opinion, we never should have acquired it. It's a beautiful piece of land, it's right by the river, but that doesn't make it a good location. And most of it is in the floodplain. So we've never really done a survey of the land to see what's buildable, what's not buildable. You know, I don't like building parks for other cities, so I don't support that being used anytime soon. Because I don't think it's convenient for all areas of the city to get to. So then what becomes the answer if that's not the answer? And also, before I leave that, it's a $20 million build out. I mean, that was disclosed years ago. And I know that we don't have $20 million to spend on that park. I'm sorry, we just don't. What we try to do is, you know, I recognize that things that come with rapid growth, when people move to a community, you know, they do want things like a senior center. They do want things like a rec center, like more parks. It becomes a big deal. You know, at the same time, I mean, I think we all now have been made aware about key infrastructure issues that we've got going on that we were walking by the whole time or on top of, not knowing what was in the ground and what wasn't in the ground and what was, you know, added on to facilities that we purchased, you know, 13 and 15 years ago. And I can't do anything about it except correct a problem that we just became aware of. And, but we're not going to kick the can down the road either. We're going to fix it. And that's not cheap. So, you know, as far as the fields, you know, I was working with a developer. It's actually the developer that donated Binbrook. And, you know, I thought I had a solution where the guy wanted to do Lakewood Phase 2. And so I told him, the previous city manager had said he was going to have to do the whole reconstruction of County Road 280. And honestly, we already had it on our CIP plan to fix that. So I had a deal where we were going to get more parkland. It was going to be right next to our current parks. It was perfect. And the guy kind of reneged on it. So he had an apartment developer right across the street from our fields. It's already zoned multifamily. So he didn't have to get our approval. So he sold that plus the 8 acres. So then the guy that was buying the land came to me and said, well, would you consider waiving some fees if we donated part of the land? I said, we would love the whole 8 acres, right? And in late February, we had multiple meetings to discuss kind of what he was looking for. You know, unfortunately, there weren't, let's say his fees were like $1 million. Well, about half of those or 60% of those were water utility fee hookups, and those can't be waived. In other words, you can't erase them off the book or trade or whatever. So there was only about $400,000 that we could do something about, which he was asking $1 million, and it would have necessitated about $600,000. Literally, I'm talking literally right after our meeting is when we shut down. And honestly, you know, we didn't know what the world was going to look like in another 30 days, and we didn't know how the city was going to come out of it. Now, if I'd been able to look in the crystal ball and see that we were going to come out as nice as we have, I would have brought it to council and tried to advocate for coming up with that other $600,000 in location, just being able to developers are dragging their feet. Call last week, I spoke with LISD on the other side of the 8 acres that is potentially for a new elementary school. So I've heard conflicting stories about whether that's going to be built or not. I've talked to him about the possibility of partnering, which in other cities, they finish first.
I'm just confused.
Okay,
Go
well,
right ahead. Still be confused.
okay. So after, I believe that there are opportunities for us to partner with LISD much closer than we have in the past. And I think with him, there is a new willingness or openness to share facilities that maybe didn't exist in the past. So I really do think there are some good opportunities. There were 2 LISD board members there. They were totally on board with it. And look, I mean, you know, my plea to them is, look, it's our children. It's your children are our children and vice versa. So there's no reason we shouldn't be able to partner a lot closer than what we have in the past. So he is going to be meeting with Jimmy, and try to find out where we're at on that 34 or whatever acres that's right on the corner. And again, the location would be really advantageous as far as, you know, just make it easier for staff and for coordinating events. So that's ongoing. You know, we are in talks with the PAC as far as possibly partnering with them on what they're doing as far as youth sports programs. So a lot of the functions that the YMCA does, the PAC also does. And rather than paying $20 million for a building and letting the YMCA run it, we could literally sign an agreement with them and let them kind of do the same thing, as it were. And their only, I think, liability is the amount of space that they currently have. There are 4 acres that are located right next to them, in between them and Life Church. The price is not prohibitive at all. It's, you know, it's $300,000 or $400,000, which for 4 acres, you know, right off the tollway is not an extreme price. And, you know, we have talked to them about us possibly buying the land, and either we would build a building that could do, you know, more gyms or putting outdoor fields on it. So I think those possibilities are definitely there. And, you know, I can tell you the price tag would not be 20, it may be 2. And from a debt perspective, you know, that is definitely something that we can do. So, you know, that is out there. And just 2 days ago, I had a conversation with a company that, I don't know how familiar everybody is with Perfect Game, like what they were going to do in Hutto, and it totally fell through. But the idea is to build master plan sports complexes, and these would revolve around youth sports. And there's a couple of locations in the country. One is in Memphis, Liberty Town, I believe it's called. Are you familiar with that?
I am. Sorry, what's it called?
Liberty Town.
No, I mean the.
What is it? It doesn't.
Perfect.
Honestly, Perfect Game is similar to Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going into Hutto.
But I know Mark is familiar. I figured you probably know who these guys are. So it's a fantastic opportunity. Now, again,
through and how.
Yeah, I know there.
Perfect Game, it's not the same group. So Perfect Game is totally different group. This group that I talked to did Liberty Town, and they did one like 30 miles west of Kansas City. They're extremely interested in having something in Central Texas. Now, again, this is a different concept than having softball fields or having soccer fields or a YMCA or a wrestling. But it does mean that there's a possibility of getting additional fields and additional programming. If it happens, it would be amazing. I will tell you that. So it's extremely early in the process, but I do just mention it because, you know, I think we're a perfect location for it, quite frankly. You know, Central Texas and its, you know, lack of facilities that are similar to this. I mean, you can go to Dallas Fort Worth, and there's the Star that they tried to kind of do the same thing with. And I think this will be a perfect opportunity for them to land in Central Texas. So that's kind of where I'm at, where we're at. And, you know, I think negotiations are still ongoing as far as the fields on Halls. Whether that works out with the apartment developer, we're still waiting to see, because they put in an application. It came in after a deadline when we passed some new ordinances regarding multifamily that require garages. that require a mixed-use component in the main floor. And those things drive up the cost dramatically. I don't think it's going to be realistic for them to build and to do what they wanted to do. So I'm hoping that the deal falls through and it kind of falls back around. So that's kind of where we're at.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a question?
Clearly did, didn't I?
Okay.
What I was confused about when you're talking about this 30 acres and developers and all that kind of stuff, and partnership with Leander ISD, what project are you talking about there? Is that the San Gabriel project? Is that the rec center? Is that all of these projects?
No, that's on Fields. It would just be on Halsey down from Benbrook. So the developer that gave us Benbrook, and it was part of the whole neighborhood. This is John Lloyd, the developer that built the whole neighborhood around all of our parks.
Okay, so you're not talking about any of the plans that we already made?
Not right now. Do you want to talk about those?
Well, yes. I mean, you know that I do because I've emailed you dozens of times.
Sure.
So, I mean, and I think they probably know me well enough to know that I probably did that. But I guess what I don't understand is if we can afford to buy some land and build a building so the PAC could use it to facilitate whatever, why can we not just build it and run it ourselves? And I wonder as well, you know, when you talked about that park not being in a good location and it used to be part of Liberty Hill, but it's not anymore.
Only
It's
because
our,
of
it's
trade.
our land, it's our land.
Yeah, but
And here's another thing, and I've asked you this a few times, and I know that maybe I just haven't been clear about it, but it's one, you guys have, somebody's been talking about all of these things since 2016, and
All of
maybe
what
since
things?
20, the bond projects that we're not building. But no one has ever come to Parks and Rec and told us that anything is any different. I mean, the only way that I knew that something wasn't going, I mean, that we weren't gonna build the park at San Gabriel is because I wrote my annual thanks for letting us use the fields to the city council. And one council person wrote back, because I made a comment in there, and we're really looking forward to the new fields at San Gabriel because we've had so much growth, plus we really need a softball program because the city doesn't serve girls in any meaningful way, not because they don't want to, but because they don't have the facilities, not that I'm passionate about that at all. But somebody emailed back and said, I'm glad at least one person wants to still build the park at San Gabriel. We had no idea that you wanted to move the senior center, that you weren't wanting to build the park at San Gabriel. Now, everybody knew there was a conflict about the PAC and the YMCA. But we've served on this board for 2 years and not known that you guys had different desires for any of these things. And I watched some of the city council meeting last week, and one of the council people said, well, you know, if you would just let us know you wanted to know these things, you know that. I mean,
well, Jane, I will tell you, I'm gonna stop you right here because I remember specifically you being at the council meetings because I remember you in the audience shaking your head when we told the YMCA that it wasn't gonna happen.
Okay, this isn't, I'm not saying that I want a partnership with the YMCA.
Okay, well, you're acting like you didn't know, but you knew, and you knew
I knew in
the very first time.
No, I knew in 2016, what I just said is that since this regime of the council in 2018 has made plans, no one has told us of any of the changes of the plans.
Well, let me tell you, I was part of the whole bond thing too,
I remember.
you know?
No,
And so let me tell you, it started out, Jane, as 20 million that we were gonna borrow. And because everybody had a wish list and everybody wanted this and wanted that and wanted this and wanted that, it grew to 70 million.
Right.
But what we said,
that's
hang on, what we said was, you know, we don't have to do all these. And depending on how our debt looks, depending on how the economy goes, depending on all these things, it's going to depend on whether we sell the bonds and go forward on any of them.
we sold most of the bonds?
No, we sold a little bit of bonds on all of them. For
So
instance,
just enough to design stuff that we don't plan to build.
or you're gonna have to talk to people that aren't here anymore, and because that is a really good question, why you would sell bonds when the council did not okay moving forward.
And I know that, I've sent you several of these questions before, and I brought a list of questions. I don't know if you got them, and I know that this meeting is not for me to ask you my entire list of questions, but when I was in the bond committee, you may or may not remember that, and I've been on the Parks Board since its inception in 2002. So I'm pretty familiar with how, park stuff has worked. Our big concern, and I think I can speak for them, but I'm not going to speak for them. Our big concern about the rec center, when they first proposed it, is they did say that our plan is to partner with the YMCA. They did say that. They were very upfront about that. No, that's true. And none of us were necessarily on board, my impression, because that wasn't presented to us either. That was just told to us. And our thought was not, we hate the YMCA. Our thought was, it's possible that people who already work for the city could do this as well. And we could get better use out of the rec center if the city built it and ran it. And if you're willing to do that, build a building, buy some land next to the PAC, why could we not have the city run it?
Well, because, okay, so the PAC already has youth programs set up with their current facility.
But how are we not just enhancing their business rather than bringing a rec center in a place that might be a better location for kids that are in need? Over there's not a whole lot of poor people. I mean, part of the reason that we were thinking.
Well, the difference between the YMCA and the PAC, for instance, the YMCA for a family of four, and gosh, this is back when I had a family, the rates were $72 a month. I mean, it's probably a lot more than that now. That's probably 8 or 9 years. Hang on, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. The PAC is willing to guarantee, if we partner with them, they would give a family of four rates like $30 a month. That's the kind of discount that they're talking about. So when you talk about affordability, there's no comparison.
Please, yeah, I don't
I
want to
wanted to say, so I was going to ask a general question. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate you coming in.
Sure.
We all do, honestly.
Everything you say about adding, parkland, the way you guys think about outside the box, how do we enhance our offering here in Leander, is all exciting. The San Gabriel is quite the shop. We spend a lot of time with that. We spent a lot of time before talking about parkland dedication, how we're in a deficit, fixing the parkland dedication ordinance. And I don't think at the time it was something that was going to close the gap, which is why we started looking at, the price of land's going up, we need to get some land here. And San Gabriel offered, and we got it, so that was pretty exciting. I know Cedar Park has Brushy Creek over there, it's in a floodplain. They don't get to use it sometimes, every once in a while when it floods, but it's a good use for that land because there's not really business. When we talk about being in a floodplain, I kind of look at that like it's ideal for parks. They're not critical. You're not going to flood a business if it's in a floodplain, but it's still usable 98% of the time.
Sure, absolutely.
We talk about the distance and where it's located. Of course, it's not ideal to be right there on the edge of Liberty Hill. But we talk about, we have kids in baseball and probably soccer that come from everywhere to play at our field.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I mean, we're facing the very same things that you as a family face, right? So the air conditioner breaks and you were about to go buy a new car. Now, you need a car, no doubt you need a car. but man, does it get hot, right? And so, look, I mean, it isn't that there's not a desire. I mean, I'm on my fourth kid. I mean, I coached at the YMCA, actually. I have a stack of plaques this tall. You know, all my kids have been in sports. There's nobody, and you know that, there's nobody that was more passionate about soccer than me and working to, because initially, if you don't remember, the emphasis was going to be on Benbrook Fields, right? And it was because we all worked, me from the inside, getting my team, you, everybody writing letters. All of a sudden, a lot of things come through, and we're able to shift that to soccer fields, right? We want to do it. There's no doubt about it. I remember the conversations during the bond conversations. We were at about 30% debt ratio. Today we're 40. And it isn't because we're spending like crazy. It's that, I mean, I could not believe one of my first votes, a traffic light, $500,000. One traffic light. Or Hero Way, which was supposed to cost 11 million, that ended up an extra 9 because there were cables that nobody knew where they were at until we got into construction. And it's just, you know, you start to look at all these things that you have to do. And we're certainly facing that with our water issues now. There is no choice, right? Should have been done years ago, should have been done when we purchased the Sandy Creek facility and we constructed DCRUA. The fact that it doesn't have a power generator to back it up, the fact that our systems don't marry up, and so if you have one plant go out, that you can't service all areas with each one, that boggles my mind. However, it is what it is, and I can't change it. Well, I can vote to fix it, and that's what I'm gonna do. So here's the thing, we're at 40%. We need to raise revenues, we do. And we are scrambling to try to get more businesses in here so that we can do that, so that we can afford to do these other things. At the same time, you know, we have needs that we have to address. This is on that list.
Right.
And I would like to think, look, we don't have 20 million for San Diego. We just don't. I'm not going to put that kind of debt on my kids and your kids. I'm not going to do it. What can we do? I think that's open for discussion. And I think, you know, getting LASD on board with a lot more co-sharing and co-mingling of our facilities for both of us, I think could be an answer. I certainly think when we find opportunities like this at Halsey, and honestly, I kick myself just about every time I get her email, just because I think about maybe we should have pulled the trigger and just spent $1 million. And yeah, I mean, I probably should have advocated for that. I just didn't know what the world was going to look like, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I think I would like to have somebody within the city, and I'll talk to Mark and what that looks like, Mark and Rick, our city manager. You know, I think there are opportunities for us to buy land around the city that could possibly turn into a field or two. And, you know, it wouldn't be on a grand stage, the type that San Gabriel would be. But, I mean, honestly, I think, you know, we have parkland dedication, I think, coming up from Treviso. And that's another place where it's just so far out. And I live in Treviso. It would be super convenient for me. I wouldn't vote to build a grand, huge park there because I'm building it for such a small segment of our population. So, look, I mean, I'm open for suggestions, but as it stands right now, you know, I think the PAC is a really good option rather than spending 20 million to spend 2 and get the same exact thing that the YMCA could have done. Same exact thing. I think it's a perfect opportunity. Excuse me?
Yeah, I just want to catch up.
And I think as far as fields, look, I mean, I'm hoping that the deal falls through and that 8 acres will become available again. I really am.
Right.
And I'm telling you, if it does, we're gonna jump on it right away. And Mark knows how badly I wanted that. He was in the discussion. I thought we had it. I thought it was a done deal. And then somebody came in and offered the guy an ungodly amount of money, and it just disappeared. Not happy, believe me, not happy, because it would have been perfect. And you don't come across those things very often. But, you know, I would like for us to have an emphasis on finding additional opportunities like that.
I understand, I appreciate the explanation, it makes complete sense. I think whenever it comes to parks, and recreational opportunities, you don't see it on the bottom line. But whenever it comes to quality of life,
No doubt.
community, I mean, we've seen it all summer at the baseball fields, just getting back in touch with people and these kids that are locked up in their houses. Getting back
Absolutely.
together, and the quality of life that brings is just, it's completely worth it to me.
Sure.
You're not gonna see it in your numbers, but.
Well, I mean, hey, I mean-
Long term, you will, as, you know, we talked about what we have the opportunity to do at San Gabriel, we build it, a large, you know, baseball, softball, baseball, complex to bring people in for tournaments, you know, you've got business owners coming in, spending money here from all over the place. I know guys in Leander that drive all the way down to the office to play in tournaments and things like that. So the impact could be there, right? But it's gonna be a long-term thing. I just hesitate in saying, let's release this land for something else without having more land somewhere else already, because we don't know if we're gonna get it.
Can I just ask something?
Mhm.
It's general, with all these little things, we could be here forever, we could be here tonight, tomorrow. But my whole thing is the communication, Mark knows my communication within agencies. But the whole thing is the shock effect, I think that was the thing, all of us, like, the way we found out. Near and dear to my heart is Lakewood. So when I found out that that was all changed and everything that we went to,
What was
we went
changed about Lakewood?
the Great Lawn, the amphitheater. What do we call it? What?
Maybe the stage.
The stage and all the things that we're not getting. We went, and I've been here,
Well, hang on one
honestly.
second, I'm gonna stop you there.
It's on my agenda to talk about.
The stage was never, I mean, I went back and I pulled the original council meeting. It was never part of the park.
Okay, all right, but okay, so that's just an example of my shock effect. But what I'm saying, what I'm asking is, if we knew somehow, there were several times where, like, for instance, you talk about the perfect game and the ball field and things that I know Mark should be knowing and we should be knowing, and as an advisory board, you can say, well, you know, you guys have no say about this, but at least to know. I'm not sure about, and I'm pointing my finger at you, but meaning you and the council.
So let me ask you a question on that. So, like, I guess I'm kind of lost on the whole, when the bonds were issued, there was never anything put out there that, hey, we're gonna start next week on a rec center, and we're gonna start a month later on.
There was a proposed timeline, because
It
we worked on that for a long
It
time.
never came.
I put a link to the proposed timeline on the question.
But what
There was a timeline,
There
it was
was.
some years out, some years out.
yeah,
It was
Was
a
that-
sale bond that the finance department put together.
Well,
And that was tentative. I mean, it was
Right.
just all
Right,
dependent on market
right,
value,
right.
dependent on space.
But let's be-
availability.
but it wasn't like we didn't talk about it, but what I'm asking is the communication, you know, what's going on, or what is your vision as a mayor and council, what is your vision of this advisory board? That, I think, is
And
my
how has
question.
it changed from the last
I think I'm confused, because when I hear things, I'm like, wait a minute. Why are we here? Why is Mark
Wow.
having our meetings? And I have to say something positive. I've been here 9 years and seen some great things happening during your time, during the past time. But look at the park behind us here. I mean, I was also on that committee. But I mean, we've done a lot of great things that have come out, and I continue to want to do more great things. But what is your vision for what this advisory board can do for the city?
Well, number one, it's always been my intention with all of our boards to actually get you guys to come before council and let us know, because it's a two-way street. I could say, how come you've never come before our council? 2 years. Has somebody stopped you?
Are you asking me?
I've been to council
I mean, I'm asking anybody.
I have 3 jobs. I mean, I do write.
Me too.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you at all. I serve.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you're saying it's a two-way street. I'm saying it is a two-way street.
Okay, we should go to council that I really have written.
Sure, I know you
I've been
have.
at council meetings, but it's never been.
Hold on.
And we discussed this right before COVID, right after COVID, was having our park board chair. We started redoing a lot of our agendas and having our committees, if you will, come, I have a parks report, which is maybe twice a year, but also allowing the park board chair to come in and share from their perspectives and those things.
Sure.
So it's just not Mark up there, but it's Randy up there as well, sharing some things that are happening on the park board side, so.
And I think it's growing.
But we've gotten so many.
We had a council member that was here that we report back and forth, so we had a lot of information going back.
I don't think that worked very well.
Yeah. So we'll have a beer over that. But yeah, we would like to know from you. What
We would
what do you
love
want to
that.
see from us?
I would love that.
When I was brought on here, it was kind of, we need some subject matter experts in the
Yeah.
parks world that are out there in the community, and we have an excellent staff, but people who have read leagues like you and I, and very involved in the community, to work on what we work on, the Parks Master Plan. And the
You all are
field,
essential for the Parks Master Plan.
So we spend a lot of time, we go out for these surveys, put together all this stuff, and then we send it up to you. And I just don't know that there's any dialogue that goes on as to, why was this in there? What was the importance of this? Why did you do that? I will say the amphitheater kind of seems like in the world that we're in right now, like,
Well,
new wheels for
It's
the car when you
changing, yeah.
don't need them, it's
Well, so, and just so everybody knows, the original brochures or renditions that were sent out had a stage. So I never knew that the stage was taken out. And when I became mayor, someone brought it to me and said, look, we kind of, were told that it was going to have a stage. And I'm the one that brought it back to council. And then it became, in fact, Mark, you remember when I came to you and said, what happened? He's like, well, it was never part of it. It was taken out a long time, I mean, very early. And see, I don't remember council ever being told.
It actually is labeled overlook. It would not fit a band, a huge band, or a band. It was more like for a solo artist. And actually, there wasn't even any power to that.
Right.
It was more of an overlook with some picnic tables that you could put an artist on, like a solo artist, maybe a duo, if you had enough generator capacity. But for a band or performance for a play or anything like that, it would not.
Have it during the day.
It was an overlook.
Have it during the day. I don't think that was my.
But when we got down to the budgeted dollars, when we came in and all the dollars, I mean, it's all there in black and white. I mean, the budgeted dollars came in and we were going to the previous council. You were part of that, but you weren't the mayor. They gave us a range to try to stay in, and so things had to be cut, and we asked, here's some of the things that we can eliminate, and the overlook was one of those things. And Councilman Seiler was one of the ones that said, I hate to cut it, I don't want to cut it, I mean, you can go look at his minutes, and he said, but I understand we need to cut it, and he said, I hope we can do it at some other point in time.
And that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
It would be very nice. We're talking about taking off ball fields that we desperately need. We don't have those. softball right now. I mean,
Absolutely.
so many programs that we can add, and we're talking about an amphitheater that we're gonna spend this much money.
No, and I'm
It's
not
nice to
using
have,
that
don't
as
get me
a
wrong,
shock kind of thing.
I
It's
wanna make
not,
sure we have these plans now.
Yeah.
We come out of this, we have an opportunity to build some of these things. We've got some more revenue.
Look, I mean, we're gonna come up with something. I'm gonna tell you. You know, if I have to pull down somebody's farm and put it on, we're gonna come up with an option.
And Mayor and I had several discussions about location, and, you know, there are some sites, there are some places, I love the 8 acres that we get started with 34 acres on the corner, it's something that would certainly work, we could have that whole block at Benbrook to be athletic type complex. But I have heard since day one, I've been here 4 years, and day one, even when the city bought the San Diego property, there were people then that said, are we building a park for Larkspur and Grayson and Sunderland and the Liberty Park subdivision that's all on that northern border of Sunderland? And, you know, yes, the field would be ours, and we would charge more for Liberty Hill residents to participate in our leagues. But you don't charge for picnic tables typically and the hiking trails and stuff like that. The other thing you have to look at is this is a unique piece of property, it is beautiful. But when you look at actually usable property for ball fields or athletic fields, it's probably right around the 50-acre mark, maybe a little bit less, because there's the front portion and the riparian area that goes through there. You can't use that for ball fields or even parking.
yeah.
You know, so that's what I'm trying to look at. So we can get about close to 50 acres and 34 and 8. Pretty good to start with that. We can get that. We're right centrally located.
But the concern is we're resetting this. I mean, how long?
I know, I get it.
I think we're just now getting done after.
2016.
And I like having the San Diego in the back pocket, but, you know, yeah.
I mean, plans,
Well,
we're not building.
I'm gonna talk for a second. So Blake and I came, we all came around the same time, right?
Yeah.
Mark came, and all these bond projects were approved. For a Parks and Rec person, called him from Georgetown, like, hey, Blake, come over, we're gonna build these things, right?
Bait and switch.
But no, I mean, we're both thrilled to hear some of these things, and we get it, it's a numbers thing. And James, we've talked a lot, and I think we have the talent. My thing with the rec center, and I was in Round Rock before, so I've been around for 12 years, right down the road from the pack. It's not the same. Like what they do and what a community center and a Y do aren't the same service to me. They run select, and they do a good job at it. Now, especially with the new ownership, I think they do a really good job at it. But it's just not the same service to me, and that's just how I came up in recreation.
Well, it's not, but let me ask you a question. I mean, for the difference between $2 million and 20, does it serve a purpose that having nothing?
I get it.
Because for me, that's the question.
I get it.
Is it better than having nothing? And I think it is.
We've talked a lot about, the why, because I ran a rec center, so the why running it, I'm like, we could do it better. But it's expensive. It's expensive to run a rec center. And I get that, and Blake and I have talked about that a lot. We both came from successful rec centers, but did they make money? No. You'd say Georgetown Rec, they tried to break even, but.
I get it. You guys are passionate. I
Yeah.
get it. I got kids in sports, and I feel the same way. I'm meeting Thursday night. When's our meeting? Thursday night?
Sir.
With people about the golf course that needs about $3 million worth of upgrades. They're equally as passionate. Equally as passionate. And that's what everybody needs to step back and, you think about the water issues that we're having, and you think about the needs that we have, because we've gone from, I moved here in 2005 and it was like 10,000 people, 73. I mean, you cannot have that kind of growth and not have these growing pains. But the answer isn't to go into debt. That's not the answer. I mean, it may seem easy. Oh, well, this bond. That's a credit card. and it's gotta be paid back. Sure. And it's gotta be paid back with interest. And all you gotta do is look at Hutto, Texas. When COVID started, they laid off 48 employees, city employees. Why? Because they grew too fast. They put everything on a credit card, financed all these things that everybody wanted right off the bat, including economic incentives for people. That didn't make any sense. And all of a sudden, the world changes overnight, and boom, 50 people, 48 people, like that. Yeah. I don't want that. And we don't have an extra 48 people to let go of. I
We don't want that either.
You know,
I think there's a smart way of going about it, and I hope that you would rely on us to help come up with some of these solutions, is what I'm asking.
Look, that is what we need to shift to, because you can talk about, it'd be great to have a rec center, but until we fix the other things, the things that have to be done, and let me tell you, I mean, we're in budget talks right now, you guys know that. I had Robert do a pie chart last night, and when I became elected mayor, I remember looking at a pie chart and seeing that development services, or development fees, and that would be hookup fees, anything that goes into what developers pay when they start a project. It was 18% of our budget. And I said, and our sales tax was 14%, 13. And I said, when I leave office, which is a year from now, I want it reversed. So we got our new pie chart for next year, and projected, and sales tax is projected to be 16, and we always do it low. So I'm hoping it comes in at 17. And development service at 14. So it's going the right way, because when you depend on growth like we have and don't have that revenue source, it's not a pretty thing when all of a sudden growth stops and people aren't building, So
If I could just mention one thing, that just to, I don't want to lose sight, we'll talk about the PAC and these opportunities.
Yep.
I don't want to lose sight of our lower income families that we have that just can't afford that, and that's where a Jane is.
$30 compared to,
They can afford that
well, then how would they afford what we would charge even?
because rec center would probably charge by the event rather than having a monthly membership.
I'm not talking about the rec center, I'm just talking about opportunities.
Yeah,
for-
and you such.
I don't think you can get a membership at Cedar Park's Rec Center for less than $30 for a family.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
And I
I doubt it.
Yeah, I'm
Talk
talking
about-
about Georgetown is.
I'm talking about recreational opportunities across the board.
Right.
And
And I
something,
do fear that if we limit this private, they're gonna set their fees. They
Well,
want to settle, and
I will tell you that their response to us is that if a family is in need and they have kids that want to participate, that they would just let them play, because that's why they're doing it. So I don't want to brand somebody as, private organizations only interested in making money, because I don't think that's necessarily the case here. I think there is a dual interest in helping the community, and at the same time, obviously, they need a paycheck, I don't, for nothing, well, I do in this job, but, I don't begrudge a company for wanting to make a profit. At the same time, I do think they have a lot of programs for underprivileged that they have indicated that they would be willing to work with. And if they need to do it for nothing, they said, we're good for it. We have opportunities where we say, you just pay what you can. Great, awesome, So I do think there are a lot of good things there to talk about. What it looks like yet, I don't think we know exactly, but I think it is something that I think would fill a need right now. Doesn't mean that it would be a 50-year contract, but could it get us to that next stage where hopefully we get past these water issues and we get past these roads that, we've got to widen because, there's so many people moving here? I think it can. And I think at the same time, there are partnership opportunities with LISD. And I had the mayor of Liberty Hill call me and say, hey, would you want to build it? And they didn't know what we were going to do. We want to build another golf course down there. We already have one. But I did say, would there be any opportunities that you guys want to partner with us on fields, athletic fields? That's a possibility. It's our land. So what if they built it?
Then we have access.
No, we would just build it for them. Yes, you would have access.
So, moving forward, is there a way that we can communicate as a board, besides going to council meetings and emailing, is there a way that we don't find out accidentally that projects that we think are moving forward are actually not moving forward? And the other thing, and I know I've asked, but I'll ask again, I guess what I don't get about the revenue is if our revenue for the year is projected to be higher than it was last year, even though they COVID, and we need more stuff, clearly, we need more stuff. And I know more people will bring more revenue, just kind of, that's sort of the way it works, and they'll help pay for the new stuff. But if we have more revenue, we need new stuff, why would you want to lower taxes instead of just keep them the same? Because maybe that would help pay for widening the roads or more ball fields. Because I think in general, people would be, they tend to be, nobody wants higher taxes, I get that. And I get when you're running for office, you don't want to go out and say like, hey, I raised taxes. But I would think people would be content with you keeping them the same if there were more benefits from it. You know what I'm saying?
So, let's say you got a business in Austin and you're tired of Austin, what's going on in Austin, right? And so you've got a facility that you're going to build, you're going to move your facility. Let's just say it cost you, $30 million, right? So you're looking to get out into the suburbs. We do not have sales tax incentives because we pay in the Cap Metro. So right off the bat, everybody around us is going to be able to write a check for incentives to try to get your company there, right? So they're going to say, hey, we're going to give you $2 million. We're going to write you a check, $2 million right off the bat. We don't have that. Well, then let's look at tax rates. So we're at 54.18, is that right? 54.18. Georgetown's at 47 cents. So you've got a $50 million building. When you start to add up the difference between 47 cents or $100 and 54, and you start to think, I'm going to move my $30 million location and all the capital equipment there, and I got Joe over here from Buda that's going to give me $2 million, and his tax rates, property tax rates, are 48. And let me tell you, just about everybody on the north side is below 50. So we don't have the money to write a check, and the sales tax that they would pay or the property tax they would pay, ad valorem tax, is going to be quite a bit more. And honestly, that's why we aren't getting a lot of these businesses that Round Rock and Georgetown and Cedar Park are getting. It just comes down to economics. And that is a lot of money. Think about a 10-year difference in, 8, 9 cents for $100. That's a lot of money. So that's the short answer. Our staff has recommended that we lower them $1.50. Or I'm sorry, a penny that has,
I quit.
a penny. Sorry, you guys, I have bad news. No, honestly, I think we are cutting it in half because we do have to be competitive with what other people are at. I mean, people say, why can't we get Tesla? I mean, every time a company announces they're gonna move, I get an email, and usually 20. Now, why can't we get Tesla? Okay, well, I can't write them a check, number one. You know, I don't have any land that's $5,000 an acre versus 50. I don't have any 1,000-acre tracts. None. So, you know, there's so many factors of why companies choose. I'm telling you, a lot of it is economics, and right off the bat, and it's just like us. You're looking to move somewhere. If you want to, you know, if you're looking at different neighborhoods and you got 3 or 4 and the school districts are the same and everything's kind of similar, you know, one's 54 versus 47, what do you do? I mean, that's, you know, it is a consideration. So I don't think we have to be as low. I don't think we have to match what they're doing because I think that Leander has a lot of other things to offer, but I think we got to be close.
And do you have any thoughts about how we can improve, if you want to? Because I know my frustration with serving on all of these committees for a very long time is that we work carefully, we do surveys, we do studies, we pass bonds, we do these things and think that we're building something and solving some problem for the future. And even though certainly we're in a better spot than we were when I moved here, there's no doubt. The progress that we had hoped to make, it doesn't seem to be happening. And I get all of the things, I was paying attention, COVID, growth, water, I mean, I know we have to have other stuff, but I just wonder when you make park decisions, do you consider any of, like, you know, the downtown park, which wasn't part of the master plan, and I get that it's a nice thing and it's important, but is that the best use? I mean, I don't want to ask, because I know how I watched the council meeting, so I mean, I know how you feel about that, but why? I guess the frustration is it doesn't feel like any of the work that we've done, any of the plans that we've created, not only are they not consulted, I'm not even sure if people are aware of them. Like when I was watching a council meeting and there was a question about why the sidewalks were a certain width. And I get, you guys have way too many things you have to know. So I'm not trying, you know, but the sidewalks are a certain width because they're part of the trails plan. And the trails plan is part of the parks plan and part of the transportation plan because we put all those together hoping there'd be a better chance they get created. So, I mean, I guess my frustration about all of this is that it seems like things happen that are a surprise to us, like moving the senior center. And no idea that anybody wanted to move the senior center. We didn't know they weren't going to build a park at San Gabriel. And I guess maybe it is on us to attend council meetings, but you would think on the Parks Advisory Committee we would have known, except I just don't know how to improve the communication or if that's even a desire.
Well, I guess I would ask staff. I mean,
I think we've got that already. You report
Yeah,
monthly on what happens.
no,
at
that's
city council.
true. Yeah,
Um,
no, we've added that for sure, and we appreciate it.
and look, Jane, I can tell you as somebody who was involved with all the bonds and the passage of those,
Mhm.
look, we can disagree or not, whatever, but they weren't on up and up on almost all of them.
we got $600,000 to beautify a median over there out in the parks.
It's insane.
Yeah, but that's what we.
No, I mean, even,
Ball fields and
we had a senior center, we paid for a senior center, and one of the people in town that is a community I would say, organizer how would you say plant is? That is connected to that senior center with such a strong force and helps and organizes the Meals on Wheels and all these things. And let me tell you, they were never going to move. So I don't know what you heard. Nobody ever talked to them. So, and that's a sizable percentage of the elderly people that are in that facility. And they aren't going to move. So if we build it on municipal, they will not move. I've already been assured. And why am I going to put my city in further debt if it's not something that they want? And honestly, I think the communication was bad. I think the communication on the rec center was, the information was bad. You know, we were told that we had 2 facilities, 2 choices. LISC was going to give us land. Evidently, it's the 34 acres that maybe they were mentioning. And I found out later that conversation never even happened. And the ACC thing was not a done deal. We were kind of told that was a done deal. We were going to have 2 choices. And so, look, I mean, all I can do is say, I wouldn't have done it that way, and I won't do it that way.
Yeah, I can, because I was on the board before, whenever all the bonds went down and everything, our frustration was the lack of due diligence in choosing a YMCA or a city-run rec or a private partnership. It was, here's what you're gonna do, and as we ask questions, hey, there's due diligence here, right? How are these other municipalities faring on their rec centers? What works and what doesn't work? It seemed like council was making a decision based on information that we never saw. And I don't want that to happen again, right? You know, like we have our subject matter experts in here, I consider myself an expert.
Well,
There's certainly a huge staff here that's very knowledgeable about those things.
Right.
How much is staff leaning on, or how much is council leaning on them for their expertise?
Right.
honestly, right now, look, it is not that we don't want to do it. It's not that someday we can't do it, but it literally is right now that we can't afford to do it. I'm not going, while I'm here, for as long as I'm here, I am not going to put our kids in debt. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't mean it's not something that could be nice, useful, used, important, all those things, but I am not going to do it.
Right.
I'm just telling you straight up.
And I think that's fiscally responsible, but how do we ensure it gets done eventually? Not even ensure it gets done, but plan now in the state that we're in for it to eventually get done and not hurt ourselves more.
Well, I think, again, the answer, and look, I mean, quite frankly, Jane, if you want to get involved and do something other than complain, and I'm not trying to say you're a complainer, but I'm saying that if you want to get involved and help the situation, then here's what we can do. You know, we could go to private companies and try to raise money for possibly fields, like Mark has done on the stage. You know, one of the other aspects of a stage at Lakewood could be that a company could sponsor it and pay for it. So it would be the Taco Bell stage. It's fine. I eat there a lot, so about time they gave me something for it. So, but look, we've got to, I'm a volunteer just like you are. Just like you are. And honestly, as a community, we've got to work together, and we've got to kind of row same direction and start utilizing whatever we have. And I don't know what that looks like right now. I can't say, but I can tell you that from my perspective, you know, I raised $10,000 for a mural. You know, how did I do it? Maybe it's because I'm the mayor. Okay, I get that. You know, but I called companies and I found a company that was going to do it. You know, I went to Lowe's. I talked to the manager at Lowe's. They're going to give us $2,500 worth of paint that people in the older houses in Old Town can use to, you know, paint their houses. You I talked to Kohl's and they're going to donate money. So I think I know HEB is a huge partner with us already. So I think as we have more companies coming in, we need to maximize those opportunities. But I think, look, right now, our debt level is not going to change overnight. It's just not going to. And I'm not going to saddle future generations with paying for something when at the same time, we do have things that we absolutely have to fix right now. Now, we're addressing them. I think we can do both. I really do. I think there is a solution coming for fields. I really do. I'm optimistic about one of these opportunities working out. And I think they can. So I'll just tell you that I think going forward, we will have a solution. Do you have anything else to say since I've yacked for so long?
Sure, thank you. So, Jane, you made reference to the sidewalks, right? And so I get it. I get what people are doing on social media and like, Councilmember Shaw's sidewalk.
Oh,
No, but let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I wouldn't bring the 10, 12, 14-foot sidewalks down in, right? I think
Sorry, I didn't realize that was you.
that was me. And it's fine. Look, it's fine. That's what I'm there for, right? I want them down to 6 foot because that saves a ton of money. And so with these developers, we take that 6 foot, and if you listen to that meeting, I wanted a pond water feature, something for the community, and the whole thing, right? Look, I don't want any cement at all. I think, I'm from North Carolina, we had trails up and down, no sidewalk, right? We spent a lot of money on sidewalks, on trail systems. A lot of it, we're having to dig up because things are going into place. So we spent money, and now we're having to tear that up. So just when you hear things coming from this council like this, we're trying to get that stuff back on track, right? The water, the roads, staffing. Our city has been understaffed and overworked for about a decade now.
Guarantee you, I know that.
When you go down those numbers, right, and you talked about it, they built the center median of Crystal Falls, right? They did the Veterans Park. I didn't hear about St. Gabriel to the winter retreat. And you can ask Mark, I said, I love that. Why didn't we do that? Even over Lakewood, right? So when you're looking at this council, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on social media, this council hates everybody. I got it. We don't. We're trying to make this city solid for the future. And we're not killing these projects. And it's just like I said in the email, we just can't do them recklessly. We're at 40%.
Don't want anything done recklessly. But, I mean, we don't know any of the stuff that you're telling us right now unless you tell us. So if we're gonna row together, we have to get the same information. And if we had known what you were thinking, it might have, I mean, and again, I know you've already said we should have been more informed. But, if we don't know, it's hard for us to know which way you're rowing. So I appreciate you coming to share your rowing patterns with us. And it's not ever my point to be hostile to you. I just truly don't understand. But I also wonder, I've done all the stuff that I wonder, I suppose, but if we don't know what you're thinking, and we don't know your positions on things until, it would just be helpful to have better communication. And it feels like I personally have felt more like I'm just wasting my time in the last few years. And when I'm going to say, when I hear somebody say to me publicly, why don't I get more involved? I don't even have a good way to answer that without being angry. Because my guess is I've volunteered in the city for longer than anyone in this room. And I've written grants that have gotten us $20,000 to $30,000 worth of soccer goals at the fields. And I have been involved for almost 20 years. So I don't know what else I could do as an individual who doesn't have political connections, who isn't politically important or viable, and doesn't have the money, other than what I've already done, which is write grants and start a soccer league from scratch and spend thousands of hours a year volunteering in the city.
Well, Jane, and please don't
I'm
misunderstand.
highly offended. I mean, I am, and I don't
Well,
mean to be, and I
Look,
want-
I mean, I get it. You're passionate, and I am too, for instance.
I appreciate all that you do, and I say that with every email I send you, and I mean it. Because I wouldn't have your job for anything, I wouldn't.
Well, I can tell you that, look, I think we're all on the same team. So how do we get there? How do we
You gotta
get?
talk to us, though. I mean, we have to know.
I understand, and Jane, please understand that this is one committee. I have the historical, I'll call it hysterical, but the hysterical commission that is passionate about the Davis house.
Sure.
I need to come up with a way that we can turn a house that's falling down into something nice. And honestly, we don't have $500,000 or $600,000 to spend on it. And now we inherited the Bryson house, same thing. Add into that, again, things like trying to attract companies, because look, at the end of the day, Leander's glaring need is that we recruit more businesses here so that this revenue stream, which pays for roads, and it pays for water pipes, and it pays for softball fields, it's a lot bigger than it is, because we're way behind where we should be. I think we're 10 years behind where we should be as a city. We are. And if you don't believe that, all you gotta do is look at numbers. Numbers don't lie. You are what you are.
Well, and if our priorities and yours could be aligned, if we.
I don't think-
What yours and ours were, and how they compare. It's just,
But Jenny, here's
Yeah, it's
the
such a
thing
lot.
that I think frustrates me. You're very passionate about what you're passionate about.
yeah.
You're not passionate about the golf course that
No,
these people will be about.
you're right. I don't-
And you're not passionate about the Davis house that a lot of people are passionate about, or the Bryson house, or,
But I would like to see softball because
or
there's no programs for that.
more roads, and that's
I
what
like
I'm
roads.
saying. But I'm just saying that for every Jane, there's somebody else, Lisa, or whatever her name is, that's passionate about the Davis house. And they're passionate about things out that way, and they're passionate about businesses over
Still
here.
want better communication.
I think one of the things that you said team several times, and it's been said here, to work as a team.
Right.
In a couple of things, you said, I have to find, I have to find, I have to find. I is Mayor Troy Hill.
Yeah.
There is a council that you work with. There are different committees. So the Davis House, I can't speak for them, but the historical committee, all the committees. Is anyone working as a team with you and your team? And I think that's the
Yes.
message we want.
Yeah,
Just
Um,
even communication, but
look.
I'm saying team.
And I'm gonna tell you, my bandwidth is extremely low. It just is. And it's because every day is filled with something. So it's not that I don't want to be involved with parks, because it is important. And believe me, I have had a lot of meetings about Halsey and getting parkland with LISD, with some corporate partners. So it is important, but I think I'm gonna have to rely on these people to keep council abreast of what you're doing. I would encourage you to come before council, once a quarter at least. And let us, come up with solutions, not just why haven't we done this or why haven't we done that.
That's what we were
Help us
asking
with
for council
solutions.
to do. And when I came on,
Come up with solutions?
no, to come in, and it doesn't have to be, your time is just as valuable as everyone here. But I'm saying, not to be here all the time. We've got Mark for that,
Right.
to coordinate and let us know what's been going on in council. But even a council member, we've always, not always, when I first came on the board, we had a council member brought me on.
Right.
But it was more or less like that was our liaison, and then they changed the structure so that Mark would always be at a council meeting. So that was our liaison. But I'm saying that if someone from council and yourself, council, were able to visit us, not on a every month, but I'm saying, get with Mark when we have an issue that we'd like to talk to council about. You're asking for solutions, and maybe we might have a piece of it.
So I would recommend that we can certainly do that from our end.
I'll do it.
And I think at the same time, I would look, I mean, we are all extremely busy. And I would encourage you to, are you the chair?
Yes.
I would encourage you once a quarter to come before council and go, look, this is what we're working on. This is what we'd like to see. And, we want to work on and pick a topic that's, whatever you guys decide is important to you. And come before council and say, okay, here's what we're working on. Here's what we think would work for whatever. Because it is important to me, and I think it's important to Jason, and I think it's important to everybody. And maybe it is that we're all kind of in our silos, and we need to get out and kind of, it was a goal of mine to increase the visibility of all our committees, because quite frankly, I never liked it that council people were on the committees, because I think I always felt like it sucked all the air out of the committees, and then, we as a council would hear from somebody that was on X committee that, oh, well, I don't know, maybe I'm just.
You have an entire council that has, one person speaking for your entire council.
Yeah.
I think from my standpoint, reaching out, hearing what's going on in the community and these rumors that are going on, and asking me, what do you know about it? I'm not sure, so I think I was talking to a council member, and I understand, he explained to me what was going on. I'm like, this makes a lot of sense. I told him, I just wish when you guys are back there making these decisions or having these discussions, that the people who have been here and you've been here as well, but on this committee or on this board for so many years, going through the intricacies of making this decision and why we made this decision might be involved in that. Give you a little insight to, we went this direction because of that. It really wasn't a priority for us. Kind of like the rec center. The rec center, I remember our conversation with the bond committee. It was the last item that was kind of like, let's throw on a rec center too.
I know.
Oh, okay.
It came up
We
with
spent
the
5
survey.
minutes, it was on the survey, we talked for 5 minutes about it, and
It
it was on the
wasn't
bottom of it, and it was like, here we go, okay.
I know.
There's a whole lot of other stuff, like fields and everything else that were very important to us. And then other things like media education that did not even exist in our world, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's, just to have some of those conversations with the people who kind of put this stuff together and were really involved in the master plan. You got staff that does that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage staff that anytime any part of agenda is on, just to shoot him a note, and he can let all the members know that, Thursday night, the 20th, we're going to be talking about XYZ, and kind of keep them in the loop. Because you're right, look, I mean, I'm no different than you. I'm a volunteer that wants to improve things, right? Same as you, and, honestly, I mean, I love ideas, that will lead to something, you know what I mean? And honestly, I just try to increase the amount of people that I'm talking to. But again, shame on me, because I haven't been in front of you guys before, but we can change it. you know? Because look, we want the same thing. I mean, she knows, I took my son out of Lone Star soccer when I got elected to council because I wanted to support Leander's soccer league, not Lone Star, Leander's. And I mean, it was a big shock for him, but you know, at the same time, they were all his friends. So I don't think he regrets that at all, you know? And it was a great experience. It was a tremendous amount of fun. So, anyway, you know, we will definitely on our end kind of circle back and, you know, we'd love to have you guys come before us once a quarter at least. But, you know, as something, and I do think it will change, whether it's LISD, whether it's, you know, land availability, as that becomes available, we will be back here. We will keep you guys informed because I think we're going to have a solution. And look, this little blip that we're in on the water, you know, I mean, you look at COVID and you look at water all in the same year this is happening. Other than the killer hornets, which haven't showed up yet, but I'm sure they will. You know, it has definitely been quite a year. And, you know, I would have hoped that this didn't come up and that we would have been able to address some of these things. You know, I do think that, you know, we need to make some improvements to the golf course because we've been putting that off for years. And, you know, we need that course to kind of go to the next level. It has been profitable and the staff there has done a fantastic job of taking it where it would sometimes would lose almost $400,000 to something that made money last year. And golf courses usually don't make money. So it was quite a feat. But now we kind of need to kind of go do some things that it's been needing at the same time.
And that's, I mean, it's this staff right here that's changed that, you know, it's the people that we've recruited here.
Yep.
Like Tyler was saying, they came here with the vision to build, and we don't want to lose
Right.
the people that we have.
Look, I mean, I threw out the first pitch 2 years in a row, over the plate. Over the plate. Yeah. Now, maybe the mound moved up. I'm not gonna comment when we're there. But anyway, just to see the number of players, it's phenomenal. And you guys have done a fantastic job. And everybody loves it. And I mean, just to see the enthusiasm for quote unquote, being able to get back to some form of normal, you know, for your kids is fantastic. So, and that was awesome. And I mean, you know, I've said it before, but our intention during this whole thing was to be as normal as possible while being safe. And I think we always try to strike that balance, you know, whether it was the fireworks show, you know, whether it was keeping the golf course open, you know, it did take more work because they had to wipe down the carts and everything after every round. You know, we had to close the clubhouse, so, you know, there were some adjustments there. So just the interactions with people, with the public, you know, just not, you know, letting people take the pins out. I mean, there's just a lot that went into it. It wasn't just, oh, well, let's keep the golf course open. No, we had to actually make plans, and the park staff and Mark did a fantastic job. You know, we'll be through this soon. I'm looking forward to that day. And I think when we come out of it, we're going to be a lot stronger. Absolutely. So I think we will come up with a solution. You know, I think the San Gabriel thing, maybe it gets built out in phases. Instead of $1 grand, $20 million hit, maybe it gets built out 10 acres at a time. And we haven't even talked about that.
And I mean, I think we've had discussions about it. These guys have a world of experience.
Yeah.
You know, just a wealth of experience in it. So.
Since,
They're the experts in that.
since we've already said that we think certain aspects of what it is we wanted to build are more important than other aspects, is there any chance that maybe we could all have a priority list and maybe list those in order? Because I would rather use that money on ball fields than than a rec center. And I think there would be more use. And I still am going to continue to say that I really think we need those softball fields because we have no city-run
Right.
programs for girls.
Yeah.
And I know there's no Title IX for cities, but as, me, I would really like to see some more services for girls. And
Right.
we do what we can, and we have said 600 players last season, so we're not tiny. And about half of those are girls, but not all girls want to play soccer. They should, but they don't. So it's
Nobody's
not,
there.
for me, it's really not just about soccer. And I'll I'll continue to remind people, I run that for free. I don't make any money. I never have taken a salary. So it's not like I have some ulterior motive or that I'm making money from it. Nobody even knows who I am. I just like the program and I like seeing 600 people who couldn't afford to play youth sports, couldn't afford to play soccer because as you know, it's very expensive in our leagues. I don't want to have I really don't want a political future. I guarantee you that.
Me neither.
I don't know, I just don't want it to seem to you, or,
No worries.
yeah, that what I'm trying to do is push some agenda that benefits me in some way.
No, I've never.
Because I really have volunteered in this.
Oh, I know that, Jane. Look, I mean, you're very passionate, and I appreciate that. What I just, again, there's other people that are equally as passionate.
Understood.
And that is, I don't play favoritism.
It's also why I
just-
don't just advocate for soccer. And if you would go back and look at that bond issue, the very smallest thing on there was for soccer.
Yeah.
The very smallest.
I'm gonna say, I think there's increased quality of life in spending $500,000 on soccer than there is price. I'm just gonna put that out. I go my way.
Bless you.
Mayor,
We need bids.
can we have a choice?
Well, yeah, that's not coming out of general funds. That was actually money that is in the bank to fix up the home. And let me tell you, I do think the possibilities there to have something that will benefit the whole community. And that's a place that's on 6 acres and it's a slice of history, so the house, the money's there. It was given by the highway, the tollway. So,
Is that what we were talking about on the ground? Is that the new rest house? Okay.
But
And,
honestly, if there is a way that we could find out what the council's park priorities are, and you could find out what ours are, maybe you could then
It might connect.
and see where they connect, maybe that would bring some sort of communication and feel like some sort of partnership rather than just no information, or you think we want the sky and we can only afford the ground or something like that. But I really think if we are on the same page, we just didn't know it.
I think we are. It's just we have the reality of paying for it. And the
Right.
reality of paying for it, it's not fun to tell people we can't do it. It's just not. I mean,
But for me,
I tell my family that every day, and I don't want to tell anybody else.
If we give this about 5 more minutes, I think we can sit here and talk.
we need to stop, and I think that we,
If you're done, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to keep
No.
you, but go to.
no, just, if there's some way we can communicate. I would want to know why, you would want this project, but we want that project. And if we talk, and I don't mean you and I personally, but I mean the council and this committee.
And I think it boils down to what the people want as well.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it from one perspective, we're looking at recreation.
Yeah.
You guys are experts at the ball fields,
Yeah.
but there are other things. What do the people want?
Right.
We got different people coming in. What is the consensus?
And if you can only build one parks project, what is it? We should.
Yeah, I mean,
discuss
just,
it together.
you know, I talked to Jane a little bit, and the last thing I'll say is about the Old Town Park, which I'm very passionate about, by the way.
Right.
And, but I brought to council, last fall, a way that we could fund the park without taking money from taxes or debt. And that was to increase the fees that apartments pay on development fees. And so we should be able to fund the entire park. Now, what does that park do? I mean, when you think about any city, and that can be Fort Worth would be Sundance Square, or you think about Dallas with the park that they put over the highway. You think about Houston's downtown park, I can't remember the name of it. You think about San Antonio, and even, you know, smaller cities around us. That becomes the focal point, right, for people, for events. So what the downtown park is, you go there for movie night in the park. You know, every event other than large gatherings like Liberty Fest should be in the downtown park when it's done. Because we want people there that are gonna go eat, and that are gonna go to Casa Cosa, and they're gonna go to the new chicken restaurant, and hopefully 2 or 3 others. That's what we want. And we want a boutique there, or we want the bookstore to do well. So we need people in Old Town. If we're ever gonna create a destination from Old Town, we have got to put things that bring people there. And these do, and I absolutely think that it will, 100%. And so there is an economic development component with that park that doesn't exist with any others. Now, you could say to yourself, San Gabriel, if we build a facility with, you know, that could be a place for tournaments, you know, why wouldn't that have an economic development component with it? And it's possible that it could, you know, and part of that is that we just don't have a lot here today. We've only got one hotel. We don't really have a lot of, you know, I mean, North Line's just groundbreaking now. You know, someday North Line would be there, and you've got things around there that are gonna continue to come up. And so the proximity to San Gabriel, all of a sudden it's not far. And this would be a logical place for people that are coming in for the weekend for tournaments to stay at the Holiday Inn Express at another hotel in North Line, and to go out to eat in North Line. And maybe we have the, you know, the Cap Metro pickup van carry people from the North Line area where they're staying to the soccer, to whatever field they are.
Sure.
You know, so that is a real possibility. Problem is now, there's not the economic development for them to take, for us to take advantage of now. So that's still being built. So it's just a $20 million hit to build the park.
So I guess if I could ask you just a quick question on that, I mean, it's chicken before the egg.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
Well, the economic development park is coming.
Yeah.
So again, you know, honestly, I think there's a couple possibilities. And that is that we do find a partnership. Maybe that could be Liberty Hill. You know, and again, the devil's always in the details, but I definitely think that's a possibility. And then building it in pieces, you know, would be another possibility. So I do think there are some things going forward that we can take a look at once we kind of get past what we're in now. So I think next year will be, you know, hopefully the turn of the year will be out of this and we can have those conversations. But I think that is a equally potential economic driver for the city, just like I consider the Old Town Park to be. So, anyway.
Well, thank you for being
Hey,
here.
thank you.
Thank you from the board. We appreciate
Yes.
you. Jason, you know, you guys went out.
I talk a lot, so once you wind me up, it's kind of, you have to let me kind of run around.
No, but I want to tell you thank you for, you know, there's some risk involved, certainly, you know, when you are summer, the league for these tournaments. tournaments, and we do appreciate you
Yeah,
allowing that to happen. And I heard a lot of good things about people being able to get there.
yeah, absolutely.
Kids getting back together. We just appreciate you going out and living there.
I mean, you know what, we don't know how long this is gonna last, and, you know, I'm not a fan of staying cooped up in my house, and, you know, I've got kids too, and the challenge for all of us is allowing them to have a life, you know, a normalcy, if you will, and still being safe, because teenagers kind of don't think, they think they're invincible anyway. So it's just something we all have to work through. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't stand you. I have to bail now.
All right.
So,